third major strategy, the underpinning of foundation of a successful recruiting strategy and recruiting plan, is having a well-defined and strategic employment section of your website. This is your window to the outside world. This is your ad that's running 24/7. This is your banner. This is your billboard about your company. And most companies have an employment section of their website, but they haven't given really a lot of consideration or a lot of thought to what that employment section has and what it says and how it positions the company and the opportunities, etc. The first thing is the employment section has to be easily found off of the front page, at least one click away, if not a major button or a major link off of the front page. Number two, that employment section has to also have a separate URL link to get to separately. So if your company is ABC and your website is abc.com, then you should also have a separate URL that takes candidates right to your employment section without having to go to the homepage of your website. So it may be abc.com/greatjobs, or it may be abc greatjobs.com, or a distinct URL. Thirdly of all, the employment section has to agree with how you position the rest of the company from a marketing and branding perspective. However, the employment section of your website should speak specifically to your employer brand, which is very different than your product brand. They should be in sync, but that employment section should speak to and should promote and should clearly let applicants visualize what the everyday life is inside the organization. So pictures, streaming video, blogs, anything that shows and speaks to the culture of the company, how the company operates on a daily basis, what happens on a daily basis. This is the window of the applicant into your company. Now, this is critical because that employment section, you want to do two things. Number one, you want to have that employment section screen out candidates that are not right for the company from a competency perspective, a skill perspective, or a cultural fit perspective. And then you also want to have that employment section screen in or invite in or energize or motivate people that are a right fit for the company from a competency perspective and from a cultural perspective to continue to come in and consider the employment opportunity that's there. Obviously, there are major critical elements of the employment section, talking about the area of the country. So if you relocate from any people from outside the area, the critical information about your area, your economy, the local marketplace, because people don't move for a job, they move for an area, for a new cultural or a new geographical experience. So having information that sells, markets, delivers, speaks to the specific elements of the region, of the location, of the locale is critical. If you don't relocate anybody, then you might want to talk about the side of the town that you're on and where your company is located and proximity to schools and business, other businesses and retail and shopping and restaurants and parks and things like that, because that may be more relevant to your customer base, meaning your applicant base. Obviously, complete information on the job that they're applying for. Maybe a day in the life of an individual in this job. Maybe some history about other people that have been in that job that have moved into other parts of the organization. Again, full disclosure, full information that really gives that candidate the opportunity to, again, really feel confident and clear and connected with that opportunity, moving them forward in the application process, or putting up a stop sign and saying, this is clearly not the company for me, not the job for me, not the opportunity for me, maybe right now or maybe forever. Obviously, we want to, in that employment section, give a very effective application process. So, sometimes in most instances, your application process is tied to the functionality of your applicant tracking system, which is unfortunate. Really, you should decide and define what you want that applicant experience to be, and then force your applicant tracking system to meet that experience. Unfortunately, the tail is normally wagging the dog, and that's a whole nother discussion. But what is the applicant experience when they're applying for a job? How long does it take them to apply? How many clicks through do they go through? What are they actually doing when they're applying? Again, we want the application process to be efficient and effective and easy, but we don't want it to be too easy that unqualified people respond or that uninterested people respond. We also strongly suggest that after they apply for a job, that before they hit the go button and it accepts them as an applicant, that there's a series of either pre-screening and or assessment questions or strategies that they have to go through before they're accepted finally as a candidate. Two major reasons. Number one, we want to keep uninterested and unqualified candidates out of our applicant tracking system, out of our database, out of our applicant pool for EOC and OFCC purposes. And number two, we want to make sure that we're only then spending time then taking those candidates that are truly engaged, truly qualified, truly interested to the next step, because that's when we're going to start spending man hours with our recruiters interviewing these candidates and taking them to the next level. The other thought process as well, or consideration, is we don't want the applicant being affected. We don't want the applicant having a bad experience. The applicant wants to know, for the most part, are you really interested in me? And if you are, how are you going to respond to me? If you tell them up front early, you're not right for us, we're not right for you, and you can do that in the application process, then it's a win-win for everybody involved. So due consideration, strategy, development of all of these elements of the employment section of your website will help you engage more positive candidate flow, more quality candidate flow, and it will decrease the amount of unqualified candidates that you have applying for your jobs, and ultimately coming into then being taken to the next step in the process by your recruiters and by your hiring managers.